Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Frankl. Happy August the 1st, and on the 1st of each month, we review the book of the month. In order to be considered for book of the month, a book has to meet a very simple criteria. It's got to be impactful enough that it could either change your life or your perspective on the world. Whether it does or not, of course, is entirely up to you. If you passively consume the content and just comment on how good it is, you're missing the point. You need to integrate it, make it part of you. Our book this month is called Yes to Life, In Spite of Everything by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl is best known for his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which chronicles his discovery of the meaning of life during his 3 years in 5 different concentration camps during the Second World War. During that time, he saw his parents killed and his pregnant wife. Somehow, he managed to survive. The book, Yes to Life, was curated by Daniel Goleman, who assembled a series of lectures given by Viktor Frankl in 1946, only a year after the end of the war, and before the publication of Frankl's groundbreaking book. Daniel Goleman is the best-selling author known for his own body of work, including books Emotional Intelligence, Primal Leadership, Focus, and Altered Traits, just to name a few. After the war, most people who survived the atrocities emigrated to start a new life rather than reintegrate in the community that allowed such horror to take place. Frankl, on the other hand, returned to his native Vienna, where he became professor of neurology and psychiatry at the University of Vienna. He would look into the eyes of colleagues who claimed ignorance of the Nazi machine, even when they were part of it. He developed a new body of work in understanding psychotherapy called logotherapy. He held visiting professorships at Harvard, Stanford, Southern Methodist, and Duquesne universities. For 4 decades, he made countless lecture tours all over the world. He received in total 29 honorary doctorates. He authored 39 books, which have been translated into 50 languages to date. The book, Yes to Life, brings forward some of Frankl's clearest and earliest thinking in the immediate aftermath of the Holocaust. In our social media-infused, consumption-driven, Netflix-intoxicated world, we rarely slow down enough to ask existential questions. Frankl is clearly focused on answering the very fundamental question about the meaning of life. Since death is certain, does not life itself become meaningless? Does death not make our beginning seem pointless from the start, since nothing endures? Let's ask the question the other way around. What if we were immortal? But if we were immortal, we could postpone everything. It would never truly matter whether we did a particular thing right now or the next day or the day after that or in a decade. There would be no reason to do something right now or experience something right now. There would be an infinite amount of time. The fact that we are mortal and our time is restricted and our possibilities are limited is what makes it meaningful to do something. Therefore, our mortality forms the background against which our act of being becomes a responsibility. We do not judge the life history of a particular individual by the number of pages in their life story, but by the richness of the content it contains. Every hour, every minute, loads our existence with the weight of a terrible and yet beautiful responsibility. Any hour whose demands we do not fulfill, or fulfill half-heartedly, this hour is forfeited for all eternity. Life can only become more meaningful the more difficult it becomes. The athlete, the mountain climber who actively seeks the more difficult tasks, creates difficulties for themselves. If life has meaning, then suffering must also have meaning. Our modern culture seems obsessed with having a happy life, a life free from stress with all the creature comforts. Compared with our grandparents, most of us live like royalty, and yet how many are truly happy? I'm convinced that in order for life to have meaning, it has to leave a positive legacy. What that means is entirely up to you. You could be significant to one member of your family, or an entire nation, or anything in between. And you can't walk where the mind hasn't been. Those who were enslaved in the Nazi concentration camps spoke of gourmet meals they would prepare when they got their freedom back. Now, sadly, millions never got to experience that, but those who did, who survived, went on to live joyful, connected lives. And Frankl talks about it in his book, and honestly, I've met 2 people who survived the concentration camps. They are some of the most extraordinary people I know. Frankl makes the case, with example after example, that people created their own sense of meaning from within. They didn't rely upon external circumstances to establish that sense of meaning. Their own agency created the meaning even under the most adverse conditions. Though written in 1946, these lectures stand as a timeless piece of work, every bit as relevant today as the day he wrote them. So definitely check out Yes to Life by Viktor Frankl. Have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.